the Blackness of Blackness interviews, Series 2, Episode 1, David Icke, interviewed by Mark Mace Smith.
Enjoy, give us a shout when you're done.
All right, well then. Hello.
Hello.
Mr. David Icke, it's a pleasure to speak to you. How are you?
Hello, Mark. Nice to meet you.
Okay, I believe I've only got 15 minutes. I don't know how long you actually have yourself to do this.
Well, I've got a little bit longer than that. I've got to go to London to do another interview. You know, being on the Isle of Wight, that's not quick. So I've got to leave about just after half past.
Okay, well, I'll let you... What I do is I do a questionnaire called the Blackness of Blackness, which involves 13 questions. 3 of them are warm-ups, 3 of them are warm-downs.
Right.
And then there's 3 questions which works out who you are.
Okay.
A curveball question regarding the blackness of blackness.
Okay.
And then 3 questions which are checking my karma, because I'm trying to work out if I'm a good person, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Okay, so...
I think.
I'm not trying to put you on the back foot, but I guess that often helps. Anywho.
No, I don't usually play off the back foot. It's cover drives I deal with.
Okay. And just to let you know, give you as much time to say anything which you wish to put out there.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that the questions are open enough that you can say exactly what you wish to say.
Right.
Okay. My first question, it's a warm-up question, is where are you?
Where am I?
Yeah.
Well, that's about 2 or 3 hours, really. The simple answer to that is that I'm on the Isle of Wight currently, staring at a computer screen.
Uh-huh.
But where are we? It's one of the things I write about extensively in my books, and the new one, Everything You Need to Know But Have Never Been Told, goes into this in some considerable detail. Where are we? See, when you start to break down the nature of reality, and even the cutting edge of mainstream science is having to go here now with things like quantum physics, it's a very good question, because what is the I? You know, we think we're living in a solid world that is outside of us, but the world that we think is outside of us is actually the one we're perceiving as a visual reality, actually only exists in that form in a few centimeters at the back of the brain, which decodes visual reality. You know that scene in the Matrix where Neo says, "This isn't real," and Morpheus says, "What is real?"
Yes.
If it's what you can see, touch, taste, and all that stuff, then real is only electrical signals interpreted by your brain. So that's one of the big things that I explore.
Yeah.
Where are we? Who are we? We certainly are not what we're told we are.
Okay, so in the physical sense, correct me if I use the wrong terminology, you're in the Isle of Wight.
Yes.
Yeah, but then you...
Well, on it, really.
On it, yes. And so therefore, in a more metaphysical or spiritual sense, you are somewhere else? Or where would you say that you are?
Well, that's another thing, you see. I mean, we perceive the world and interact with the world mostly through the 5 senses. And if you are only doing that, then you are in this world and you are of it.
Yes.
And if you're in the world and of it, then to get a fix on who you are, the nature of the world, the nature of reality, the nature of world events, then you have to get that information from the world you are part of. Which is the media and education, what we laughingly call education, and all these sources of information. So if you are 5 sense alone in terms of your perceptions of self and the world, then you get the 5 sense version of the world, which is so tiny and so narrow it's almost laughable.
Okay.
But if you expand your awareness, you expand your self-identity from I am my experiences, I am my job, my race, my religion, my income bracket, my class, to I am a state of awareness, a point of attention, having those experiences. Well, that's very different, because as you expand your sense of who you are, you allow yourself to expand into other levels of consciousness, which are shut out by I am just 5 sense me. And therefore, I operate on multiple levels of awareness, and therefore I can go from, deep stuff about the nature of reality to Leicester City's latest result in in two sentences because you're moving between different levels of yourself, different levels of your infinite multi-leveled awareness. And I think it's really, really sad, and as I expose in my books in some detail, it's not by accident, it's by design, that people are locked away in the five senses because they have an incredible limited perception of who they are when they are literally infinite.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'm trying to open my consciousness so I step outside of the five sense reality, and then I wonder where that positions me. And I guess I'm thinking as a physical being of where it would position me, but then I'm trying to get to an idea of how I can understand that and inhabit that extra dimension so that I can.
Well, you are anyway. I mean, the thoughts that you and perceptions you're having are not physical. There is no physical. That's the big penny dropper. Quantum physics has clearly shown that actually the ancient shaman, who were supposed to be primitive and didn't know what they were talking about, quantum physics has shown that they were right. There is no physical. There is just consciousness, and as Einstein said, what we call matter is just energy that's fallen into a level of frequency that appears as matter. So there is no physical. For me, it's all about self-identity.
Okay.
If you self-identify with your name, race, religion, income bracket, country, culture, as who you are, nothing wrong with any of that. It's an experience. Enjoy it. But once you start self-identifying, this is who I am, then you get caught in the five senses. You get caught in the perceptions of the five senses, and you disconnect an influence of the much greater expanded you, which does not self-identify with the five senses, because it's not. The five senses are a manifestation of the body, and the body is what I call a biological computer. It decodes information within a certain frequency band, a very narrow frequency band, and that's what we call the world. It's not a world; it's a frequency band of information. And if your focus of attention accepts that is all there is, then that is the limit of your possibility.
Okay.
It's the limit of your potential. But when you expand your awareness to self-identify with awareness having the experience, then automatically you start to access expanded states of awareness, which is our natural state. Five sense awareness only is an unnatural state, and then you start to see the world differently. Instead of seeing just the pixels, you see pictures. Instead of seeing strands, you see the tapestry. And as I've gone around the world, particularly in the last 18 months, talking, the number of people in all walks of life who are starting to reevaluate who they are and the nature of world events is fantastic, because they are starting to view from a more expanded level of awareness.
Okay, I need to give you some more information about myself then, really.
Okay.
I spent some time in Spain about 3 years ago, and I started listening to Richie Allen.
Right.
Okay, I'd been aware of you before and been interested in the concepts, but I started listening to Richie Allen, who actually, an interesting fact, the show started on my birthday. And I actually share a birthday with Prince Harry and Mark Duggan, and so I'm very much open to your ideas, and I know them already. Okay, so what my desire is to do is to talk to you, and so that we can work out how we can express this to more people now, because so you don't need to convince me of these things. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I'm not talking to you so much as talking to your listeners, you see.
Well, indeed, and I'm trying to make sure that the listeners can get the full picture.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I have an opportunity after this interview, then I will add more of the information which surrounds this.
Okay.
To give them a bigger picture.
Right.
Okay, and I think we've gone 10 minutes in, and we're still on question one, as in where are you, which we've answered. And I'll quickly go for the next question, which is, what is the weather like where you are?
Well, it's been very cold, actually. Actually, in the Isle of Wight, we don't usually get it so bad, people think, but of course we're surrounded by sea, so we do get it really cold sometimes. But I was in Manchester recently, talking, and it was freezing cold. So you have my admiration.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to fly out to Mallorca sometime next week, spend the Christmas there. And then the next one is a third question, which is still a warm-up question, is do you have a favourite word?
Perception.
Okay. Now, my first of the core questions, which you've begun to answer, and some of these do overlap, is who are you?
I'm a point of attention within infinite awareness, having an experience called David Icke, at the same consciousness you are, having an experience as Mark and everyone else is. And this is why the whole concept of judging people by race, religion, background, and stuff is absolute nonsense. It's like two spacemen on the moon who are arguing with each other and fighting each other because their spacesuits are a different color and were made by a different manufacturer. It's insane, and we are not going to sort the world out until we realize who we are and stop being divided and ruled by what we're not.
But so, I mean, we're kind of... In what way, therefore, are you and I different?
I just have a different point of perception. I have a different point of observation.
Okay.
You can get many different people in a room, and you can bring up a subject or even a picture, and you can ask them what they think of it, and they'll have either a majorly or slightly different view of it, because they have a slightly different fix on how they're seeing it. That's simple. But the consciousness that's seeing all those different angles is the same consciousness ultimately.
Okay, and then what is that consciousness?
Well, it's a state of being aware. Just simple as that, a state of being aware. And we can be infinitely aware, which some levels of this consciousness are well beyond the human world, or we can be fractionally aware. And basically, it's how many onion skins of program perceptions are you going to allow to be surrounding you to create the barrier between the infinite self that you are and the name, date, race, religion self, the five sense self. Because when people say you need to seek enlightenment, I completely disagree. We are enlightened. Our natural state is one of expanded infinite awareness, far beyond the scale of attention and awareness that we have in a human body. But we take on these programs which are downloaded to us from cradle to grave, which are basically different versions of little me. You have no power. And so basically, are you going to have a state of awareness that thinks that she's Ethel on the checkout and that's all she is, or the same state of awareness that is so far greater expanded in its self-identity? I am infinite awareness having that experience as Ethel on the checkout, then that's another state of awareness. But in the end, we're just a state of awareness. And see, when people leave the body at a near-death experience, and they say reality dramatically changes, and they could see past, present, and future instantly in the same now, that's what leaves the body is their state of awareness. The body is just a vehicle for that awareness to experience this tiny band of frequency we call the human world and planet Earth.
Okay. My next question, number 2 in the core questions, is what do you do?
What I do is follow my heart for a start, follow my intuition. That's what I've done for nearly 30 years, and that's what's led me where it's led me for where it's led me is worth. And I question what we're told to believe. I don't question some things. I question everything and see if it stands up. Some things stand up. The overwhelming number of things do not stand up, especially if they are uttered by people in authority, government, corporations, media, education, all of that. So it's what has been staggering in my life, Mark, is to see the information, the documentable backup information and evidence that exists of a completely different world that we live in, that most people never ever see, because the information is so that people receive is so narrow, what I call the postage stamp consensus. And once you break out of that, you go, why hasn't anyone told me about this before? Why doesn't everyone know this? Because if we know that we're infinite awareness having an experience instead of the experience, we are a nightmare to then collectively control in the hands of a few people.
Yes, I thoroughly agree. I got red-pilled, as they say,
Right.
at 9/11.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. My next question on that is, why do you do what you do?
Well, when I had a series of extraordinary paranormal experiences in the early 1990s, which set me on this road.
Yes.
Basically, I have this urge to do it. You could offer me £10 million for working on a Wednesday to do something else. I wouldn't do it. Because and the other thing is that once you know what's happening in the world, once you know, for instance, the scale of child abuse by the rich and famous alone, never mind everything else, once you know where this world's being taken to a point where artificial intelligence is planned to be attached to the human mind to delete basically the human mind, so artificial intelligence becomes the human mind. They're openly talking about this and saying it's going to happen now because they're trying to sell it as we'll become superhuman. We won't. We'll become subhuman. That's the idea, and they know it. Now, once you know that, there's no walking away. There's no walking away. You just get up in the morning and do whatever you have to do to be as effective as possible in alerting people to the fact the world's not like they're being told it is. So that's why I do it. I couldn't do anything else.
Okay. Right. A curveball question.
Right.
I'll
get me bat ready.
Yeah. Tell me something about the blackness of blackness.
Well, that's an interesting thing because I've taken psychoactive drugs once in my life, and that was in 2003 in a rainforest in Brazil, in a controlled situation. And I went into an altered state for 5 hours where this female voice is the form it took, as loud as mine is now. Talked to me for 5 hours about the nature of reality. And the opening line was, all you really need to know is infinite love is the only truth, everything else is illusion. And what went on to be told to me was that the whole world that we think we're perceiving is an illusion. And when I came back to England and looked at all the different scientific disciplines, I realized that if you put the dots together, they've already sussed that. They just don't want us to know. Yeah. But on the blackness of blackness, at one point very early on, as the voice was talking to me, pictures were appearing relating to what was being said. And what appeared was this darkness, this blackness, but it was shimmering. It was brilliant. And this voice said to me, "This is infinite awareness and awareness of itself." In other words, that level of this consciousness that's aware that it's this consciousness, and from this everything else comes. And it was an amazing thing. It didn't move. It was still and it was silent. But from that, everything comes. And then, as the years have passed, I've met people who've had the same basic experience and seen this blackness, this brilliant blackness. And I read a book years and years after. In fact, it came out in 2008, I think, by an American neurosurgeon called Eben Alexander, who went into a 7-day coma and went off into La La Land, other levels of reality, which as a scientist he didn't believe before even existed. And he describes experiencing this blackness, and he described it brilliantly, actually, as the dazzling darkness, from which everything comes and from which all what we call love emanates. And so, you know, we have this thing that, you know, white good, black bad in terms of colors, you know, the darkness dark and white, oh, it's the light. But actually that's all a nonsense as well, really. And I experience this as this great description, dazzling darkness. And whenever you say blackness of blackness, that's what comes to mind. Yeah,
that's cool. Indeed, I've asked that question several times of several different people, and that is the closest to what I think as a response. But I've been listening to you for a while, so maybe you influenced me. Okay, my next question, it's me checking my karma. And what I did is my friend fell out with another friend, and he didn't know that the friend was upset with him. So I said, you can ask him these 3 questions, and if you ask him sincerely, you will know how your friend is. Okay, so that would be him checking his karma by finding out how his friend is. That make any sense? If not, I'll just ask you the questions. Mr. David Icke, how are you?
I'm good. Have great satisfaction in my life because of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't doing it, I would not have great satisfaction in my life. Because of the way this world is so manipulated, and stress and distress and fear and everything is so manipulated to divide, rule, and conquer. Most people, they basically define their happiness by their state of unhappiness, from what I observe. If they're less unhappy, they take that to be happy, and so we're all kind of doing that because the world is as it is, and it does bring us down from time to time.
Yeah.
But I'm as happy as I've ever been, and of course, when you go into these other levels of awareness beyond the five senses, like in that ayahuasca state, that psychoactive drug state in the Brazilian rainforest, you go into levels of bliss and happiness, and above it all, perception that you almost never experience here because of the way we're all suppressed. But in my life of 65 years, I'm as happy and contented now as I've ever been.
Yeah, I've been saying that myself recently, and I've added the fact that I'm as old as I've ever been. So therefore, tomorrow should be. I'm optimistic for tomorrow.
Yeah, well, the thing is that we live in a quantum field of possibility and probability, and our perceptions are interacting with that. So if you think the glasses are full, then that's what you'll create, because you're going to interact with the possibility and probability quantum field at that level. And this is where the self-fulfilling prophecies, what I call feedback loops, happen and are set up. People say, nothing ever happens in my life. Well, of course, you keep interacting with possibility and probability at the same level. Nothing ever going to change.
Yeah.
So being optimistic and being happy and joyful is a very, very good thing to be, because you reach joy as in a state of expanded awareness. You don't reach joy in very low frequency awareness. That's where fear and anxiety and worry all lie. So if you do interact with life with joy, with confidence, and not with fear and trepidation, then you will create a different reality. Through the interaction of perception with possibility, you can't do anything else but create a different reality.
Indeed. It's kind of a law of attraction in some respects.
Exactly that, yeah.
I've had you down on the list of someone I wanted to interview for a long time. And I move in that way, which goes, I'm sure things will work out just fine as long as I'm optimistic, positive, I spread love, and I try and visualize what it is that I wish to achieve. So speaking to you today, to me, is just going, it works,
I had an experience at Mark in Manchester recently when Manchester United called off a book launch event for this new book, Everything You Need to Know But Never Been Told, on the day at 10:30 in the morning. It's a long story. If people go to my website, there's a video there called A Coalition of the Gutless, which tells the story. But
I watched it the other day.
The point is, we knew at 10:30 in the morning that we were going to find another venue that night. It seemed ridiculous, impossible, but it happened. This is what I mean. And if we'd have sat down and felt sorry for ourselves, oh God, the system's so powerful it stopped us, then it would not have happened. We weren't having it, and therefore you create it. It's basically like, if you like, attacking life instead of apologizing for being there. It's a very different reality that you create.
Yes. Okay. Does anybody do an audio version of your books?
They're working on it. I'm going to do it. I'm 3/4 of the way through Perception Deception, and then I'm going to do this new one. Okay.
Well, I'm just offering, if you want my voice to do it, it'll have to be the voice of David Icke.
Oh, really?
Just putting it out there.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't know how debilitating energy-wise it was reading a book. Because it is a long book, Perception Deception, but crikey, don't have to drain the energy. So maybe you could take over me.
Yeah, I'd be very happy to. Maybe the new one, rather, because I believe it's everything you need to know. So anyway, my next question, with checking my karma, is there anything that I can do for you? And I know you don't know me very well, and I threw that other one in there, that idea about the audiobook in. But is there anything that I can do for you?
Well, it's like, what can we all do for each other, really? And the key thing is not just to awaken to your truer self and your more expanded self, and then see the world in a different way, and but to actually communicate this at every opportunity. We need more and more people who will just start up conversations, talk to people about these things, because what's happening is there is a war on freedom of speech to shut this down. They make their excuses. You can't say this because, you can't say that because, but the because are merely excuses. The whole thrust is to shut down all information and discourse that is not from the official narrative. And the last thing, this is the bottom line really, the last thing they want us to know is the true nature of who we are. So all this stuff it gets suppressed using the excuses of other things. So we need people to stand up and speak out and refuse to be silenced. The more people that do that, the more the wall of suppression will fall. And they know that. You know, they're well aware, this hidden hand, that people are waking up around the world and asking questions they never asked before. And that's why there's this war on freedom of speech to slam down the lid, because the alternative media in all its many and various forms has had a massive impact in simply pointing out there are other ways of looking at things, and they want to shut that down, so there's only one way of looking at things, and that's theirs.
Okay, I'm just going to go a really short list of people who are doing this online, who you may not have heard of.
Okay.
Cliff High.
Oh, I know Cliff, yeah.
Jolly good. Michael Trim.
No.
Okay. He does a Michael Trim show. Jordan Safer, who does Destroying the Illusion.
No.
Tracy Beans.
No.
Very much looking into the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, but this is the great thing, you see. When I started out, Mark, there was a man and a dog doing this. When I started out, there was no internet, and we were communicating with printing leaflets off. That's what it was like.
Which you might have to go back to, really. No,
we're not having it. But that's what they want. But the point is that now there's been an explosion of people that are looking into different aspects of it, and this is what they're terrified of. Exactly what you're talking about now.
Yeah. I'm going to drop two more names. It's Sticks, Hex and Hammer 666 and Lionel Nation. Just putting them in there because I want other people to know about these people as well. Okay. The next question, which is the end of checking my karma. Is there anything you'd like me to do for me?
It depends how you're seeing yourself now. If you're seeing yourself now, clearly you're not. But if you were, as a five-sense label consciousness, as I call it, or phantom self, as I called it in my last book, then I'd say reassess your self-identity. Reassess what the I is, because your name and everything is just your experience. The I is what we need to get into contact with, the same I that we all are. And another thing is, people are so unkind to themselves. They're constantly comparing themselves with others, which is the last thing they need to do, because they're a unique point of attention. Why should they want to be someone else's point of attention? And have fun, have laugh. People don't. I don't hear enough laughter. Laughter is the greatest antidote to fear. You cannot laugh and be frightened at the same time. It's impossibility. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. Three warm down questions, so to speak, and I'll give you all of them at the same time. Do you have anything to plug? Do you have any shout outs? Anyone you want to say hello to? And do you have any questions for me?
Well, I would obviously I want as many people to know of the existence of Everything You Need to Know But Have Never Been Told, which is literally just out. A shout out, I would say, you mentioned him already. He works out of Manchester, Richie Allen. It's a great show on a weekday night, Monday to Thursday, between 7 and 9, talking to people that would never overwhelmingly get in the mainstream media. And a question for you: where do you go from here, do you think?
I've get your contact details. I send you that poem which I've mentioned you in.
Okay.
I offer my services to record your stuff if you so desire. Hopefully, I have a chat with Richie Allen as well, since we're in the same city.
Yeah, you'd be a great interview on the Richie Allen show, talking about your experience and what's happened to you.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do for you?
I'm going to keep trying to clarify my goals and what it is I actually wish to have in my existence, and pushing towards that. Obviously, always with peace and love. But yeah, maybe there's something you might specifically add to that. What am I going to do with me? Just keep going. Yes.
Well, that's the only way is to keep going.
Yeah.
Because was it Bob Marley said basically you don't know your own strength until you have to find the strength, and then you do.
Yes.
So he said a lot of very sensible things, Bob Marley.
Mm-hmm.
And you just keep going, because in the end it's persistence that will bring the wall down. Not here today, gone tomorrow, people. It's persistence. You know, where you don't give up because giving up is not an option. You know,
yeah.
that's the only way anything has ever been changed.
Excellent. Okay, well, I hope we meet at some point, maybe on this dimension or on another.
Well, I'm sure I will. I'm coming up to speak in Liverpool Southport in the spring in an evening event. So maybe I'll see you then.
I've been pretty much living without money since about 9/11, and so there's always these events I can't go to. My flatmate went to see you.
Drop me drop my son Jamie an email, and we'll get your ticket. No problem.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right.
Have a great day and enjoy your travel to London.
Cheers, Mark. Bye.
Thank you, David. Bye-bye. Bye.